So there's a reason that diaphragmatic breathing might not be working for you if you have hypermobility, EDS or HSD. So I want to do a short class focused on breathing and explain to you why diaphragmatic breathing might be challenging for you. We're always told, aren't we, that we need to diaphragmatic breathe and not do upper chest breathing. But it's really, really hard. I don't know if you found that. Many people tell me that they find it hard to get the air down into their belly. They find it hard to exhale and they feel like they're forcing their exhale. Why is that? So I believe the main reason that people with EDS, HSD find diaphragmatic breathing so challenging is because of our tendency to lock the thorax for a variety of reasons. I've talked about this many times, bracing to create power. We brace this area so that we generate power and stability. It can also be due to stress, anxiety, fear, sort of shutting in and closing down, protection. There are so many reasons. If I've got really hypermobile shoulders, I'm probably going to be guarding quite a lot because I'm worried about them subluxing or causing pain. There's so many different reasons that we could be doing that. If you do that, imagine you have this locked thorax. It's very hard, right, to take a breath in the first place, because when we breathe, when we take that air in, we want an expansion of the rib cage, an expansion of the tissues. But if I've locked this down and I'm very guarded and braced, when I try and take a breath, you can see I kind of get stuck and it's actually quite uncomfortable. So how am I going to get down into my belly to get the diaphragmatic breathing if this area isn't expanding to allow that to happen? So I work in a very specific way. We want to start breathing up here first. Now, that's not to say that we want upper accessory breathing up here. So we don't want the sort of, we don't want the shoulders rising and falling with our breath, of course not. But we want the ability to expand the thorax with the breath. Okay, and we're probably going to do this lying down. So if this is new to you, sitting up, especially without any back support, is going to be really, really challenging. So don't be too hard on yourself. I always recommend we start learning breath lying down, then transition to seating, then transition to standing. Because it's hard, right? Especially if you've got hypermobility, chances are you're using all the wrong muscles to try and hold yourself up anyway, including your diaphragm. Yeah, there's a lot of sucking up here. So then it's very hard for that diaphragm to start moving when we breathe. So if I lie down, I've got a lot more support. My muscles can relax a little bit. So the first step is to get this area moving, to help it start to soften, to help a bit of expansion. If this area starts moving, you've got a much better chance of getting down into your belly. And then you get the more diaphragmatic motion. But really, ideally, we want whole body breathing, not just focusing down here. We want that whole body expansion. Because my lungs are up here, right? Yes, I want diaphragmatic movement, but I also want to get my lung tissue working and expanding. Yeah, and the chest wall expanding. I don't want to be tight here. How many of us have got tight pecs with the rounded shoulders? Again, very hard for me to take a breath. Okay, I've got to open this up. Okay, so think of inhaling from sort of, here, from the clavicle all the way down to the pelvis, and feel that whole body expansion. Okay, then you'll start to get the diaphragmatic breathing. But if you've been told to diaphragmatic breathe, but nobody's addressed this area, I think you're always going to be on a fighting battle, and we don't want that. That's the last thing we need, is to have a battle with our own breath. Okay, because breath obviously is so essential to our being. It shows how we're feeling, how we hold ourselves. It's an expression. So if I'm bound down with a lot of tension and then I'm fighting just to get the breath in, that's not going to be a pleasurable experience. And we want it to be enjoyable, relaxing, not something of strain and stress. So shall we give it a go? As I say, I recommend you can do this in the bed, you can do this on your mat, you could do it in a recliner if you don't want to get on the floor, if that's challenging for you. Just make sure that your torso is fully supported so that you can settle into it, okay? So you don't want to be trying to hold yourself up. Okay, now let me just move the mat a little bit. Okay, and I'm going, if you need head cushions, etc., grab head cushions now. Make sure you're comfortable, because again, if you're uncomfortable, this whole experience is not going to be very pleasant for you. Okay, so if you need a head cushion, grab a head cushion, and we're going to go ahead and lie down. Okay, so if you can, knees bent. If you can't, you can put your legs over some cushions, over some bolsters. This will really let the pelvis drop. Might be a little easier. Okay, so grab your head support, whatever you need. If you need something under your pelvis, put something under your pelvis. It's all good. And we're just going to go ahead, invite ourselves to close our eyes. And just for now, take a moment to observe the breath. Without judging it, without forcing it, just notice where the breath is going. How does it feel? What areas are moving with your breath and what areas feel a little bit stuck? Or maybe the whole thing is beautifully expanding already, which is wonderful. So just notice that. Let the bones really settle into the ground. Feel the ground supporting you from below. So your bones, your tissues can let go. And then you're just going to place your hands, or one hand maybe, on your sternum, your chest bone here. And I want you, without force or exaggeration, to try and breathe into this area. So can we feel that rise and fall of the chest without force? Can you feel your upper ribs lifting? Can you feel your side ribs expanding? You might feel pressure going down into the mat as your back ribs start to expand down. So very soft, no forcing, very gentle. It might take a little while, so don't worry if you have to come back and try this again. But try to imagine all the muscles around the rib cage. As you inhale, they're going to expand. They're going to stretch a little bit, right? And that might feel a bit uncomfortable if you've been very, very tight. And as you exhale, they're going to contract and they're going to soften down. Yeah, so there's this constant wave of expansion and contraction. So we've got this area going. Keep one hand on the sternum, put one hand on your belly. Now as the thorax expands, do you notice that maybe your belly expands a little bit too? And then as you exhale, let it all go. The belly will fall back, the ribs will fall back, and everything will drop. So when we inhale, there's this whole body expansion, getting right down into the belly, but the air can get to the belly now because the ribs are opening up. And as you exhale, everything falls, the belly releases, the chest releases. I start to feel that weightiness. And just do a couple more rounds in your own time. Just really noticing that rise and fall of the whole body, but very gently. This isn't about taking a whole body breath. Doesn't mean we have to be really violent through the nose. That's just going to put more stress through my face, through my throat. You know, the whole body expands with the breath. Yeah, so we want to be gentle with it. We're not doing anything. We're not exercising. We're lying down. We don't need to be aggressive with this. Good. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some tips how to sort of relax into this rather than fighting that concept of diaphragmatic breathing, and rather allowing the expansive quality of the tissues to breathe for you. Yeah, we can be breathed. We don't need to breathe. The body is going to do this anyway. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. So let me know how you get on. Was that helpful? Leave me a comment, and I'll see you again very soon.